1. Tenerife Airport Disaster. March 27th, 1977, 583 deaths. A thick fog blankets Los Rodeos Airport in Tenerife. On the runway, two Boeing 747s, one from KLM, the other from Pan Am, prepare for takeoff. Visibility is almost zero. Radio messages overlap, confusion builds. At 5:06 p.m., the KLM captain, believing he's been cleared, pushes the throttles forward. The giant aircraft surges down the runway. At the same time, the Pan Am jet is still taxiing ahead. The co-pilot shouts, "There's something on the runway," but it's too late. The two aircraft collide in a burst of fire and metal. Within seconds, 583 lives are gone. That day, it wasn't the sky that killed, it was fog, miscommunication, and overconfidence that created the deadliest aviation disaster in history. 2. Japan Airlines Flight 123, August 12th, 1985, 520 deaths. At 6:12 p.m., Japan Airlines Flight 123 takes off from Tokyo. Minutes later, a deafening bang shakes the plane. The rear pressure bulkhead explodes, destroying the hydraulic system. The crew loses nearly all control. For 30 long minutes, the aircraft struggles to stay aloft, rolling and dipping through the Japanese sky. Passengers pray. Some write farewell notes on scraps of paper and napkins. Finally, the Boeing crashes into Mount Takamagahara in Gunma Prefecture. A fireball lights up the night. Of the 524 on board, only 4 survive. Investigators later discover a faulty repair made 7 years earlier, a small mistake that claimed more than 500 lives. 3. Charkhi Dadri mid-air collision. November 12th, 1996, 349 deaths. High above northern India, two aircraft cross paths. Saudi Arabian Flight 763 is climbing. Kazakhstan Airlines Flight 1907 is descending. On the radar, everything looks fine, but communication between air traffic control and the Kazakh crew is poor. They descend below their assigned altitude. Suddenly, a flash of light, then impact. The planes explode in midair, scattering debris across the fields of Charkhi Dadri. There are no survivors. It remains the deadliest midair collision in history. India will later enforce strict English language proficiency for pilots and introduce secondary radar systems, safety rules written in the blood of 349 souls. 4. Turkish Airlines Flight 981, March 3rd, 1974, 346 deaths. Turkish Airlines Flight 981 departs Paris bound for London. Minutes after takeoff, a cargo door blows open. A simple latch, poorly secured, gives way under pressure. Air rushes in, tearing up the cabin floor and severing the flight controls. The DC-10 becomes uncontrollable. Within a minute, it crashes into the Ermenonville forest. No one survives. Investigators later reveal that McDonnell Douglas had been warned about the cargo door design flaw, but ignored the risk. Under pressure to deliver quickly, they gambled with safety. 346 lives paid the price, and the tragedy forever changed aircraft certification standards. 5. Air India Flight 182, June 23, 1985, 329 deaths. Over the North Atlantic, Air India Flight 182 cruises smoothly. Families chat, children laugh, travelers rest. Suddenly, an explosion. The Boeing 747 breaks apart at 31,000 feet and vanishes into the ocean. No distress call, no warning. Investigators discover a bomb hidden in checked luggage loaded in Vancouver. The attack, orchestrated by Sikh extremists, becomes the deadliest act of terrorism in Canada's history. For decades, families of the victims fight for justice. The tragedy is a chilling reminder that terrorism doesn't always strike on land. Sometimes it rises into the sky. 6. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 departs Amsterdam, bound for Kuala Lumpur. Over eastern Ukraine, war rages below between Russian-backed separatists and Ukrainian forces. The route is considered safe until 1:20 p.m. A surface-to-air Buck missile, fired from rebel territory, hits the Boeing 777. The plane breaks apart midair, raining wreckage across the fields of Donbass. 298 people are killed, including 80 children. The world is horrified. International investigations later trace the missile launcher to a Russian military unit. That day, a ground war crossed into the skies, and innocent lives became collateral in someone else's conflict. 7. American Airlines Flight 191. It's a bright day in Chicago. American Airlines Flight 191, a DC-10, takes off smoothly. But seconds later, disaster strikes. The left engine tears away from the wing, ripping out hydraulic lines and key control systems. The plane climbs briefly, rolls to its side, then plunges to the ground, exploding in a field near O'Hare Airport. 271 people perish. The investigation reveals that maintenance crews had lifted the engine and pylon together. An unauthorized shortcut meant to save time. The stress cracked the mounting system. After the crash, strict new rules overhaul aircraft maintenance across the U.S., written in the memory of Flight 191. 8. Pan Am Flight 103. Night falls over Scotland. Pan Am Flight 103 soars toward New York, filled with travelers eager to get home for Christmas. At 7:03 p.m., a bomb hidden inside a suitcase detonates in the cargo hold. The Boeing 747 disintegrates, scattering debris across the town of Lockerbie. Houses ignite, families vanish. 270 lives, passengers and villagers, are lost in an instant. Years later, a Libyan intelligence officer is convicted for the attack. Lockerbie becomes a symbol of global terror and shared grief, a quiet Scottish town forever linked to the dark side of the skies. 9. Korean Air Flight 801. As Korean Air Flight 801 approaches Guam, the tropical night is thick and silent. After hours of flying, the crew is exhausted. The airport's ground radar system is offline, and the pilots misread their instruments. Believing they're closer to the runway than they are, they descend too early. Seconds before landing, the Boeing 747 slams into a hillside. A massive fireball lights up the jungle. 264 people die. Only 26 survive. Investigators blame fatigue, miscommunication, and poor training. The tragedy pushes South Korea to reform pilot education, emphasizing crew coordination and rest, lessons carved from the ashes of Flight 801. 10. EgyptAir Flight 990. EgyptAir Flight 990 leaves Los Angeles for Cairo, stopping briefly in New York. Over the Atlantic, everything seems normal, until suddenly the Boeing 767 dives. The pilots fight desperately, but the controls won't respond. The jet plummets into the ocean, killing all 217 aboard. The U.S. investigation concludes the crash was caused by the relief first officer, who allegedly disconnected the autopilot and pushed the plane into a dive. Egyptian authorities reject that theory, insisting it was mechanical failure. To this day, the truth remains shrouded in mystery, somewhere between the depths of the sea and the silence of those who can no longer speak. These tragedies are memories, and paradoxically, the foundations of modern flight. Every crash, every impact, every name engraved on a plaque made the sky safer. Today, when you step onto a plane, you're flying inside the lessons of the past. These stories aren't meant to frighten, but to remind us that progress is born from courage. The courage of those who paid the ultimate price. The sky is a promise. Fragile, radiant, human. And every takeoff is a silent tribute to those who never returned. Because behind every historical event, there is a human story. And that's what we explore here on Curio Mind. If you enjoy this kind of content, subscribe for more stories where history meets curiosity. Like, share the video, and let us know your thoughts in the comments.